Welcome to my channel. Today I'll be doing a Melffy Tri-brigade Dogmatika deck profile. Right after this I'll be uploading a combo tutorial video as well, so make sure to stay tuned for that. And also, since I'm new, this is a new channel, please make sure to just leave a like real quick, and if afterwards, after you're done, if you like the video, please make sure to subscribe as well. Thank you. The first monster we play is 3 Melffy Puppy. Puppy is the strongest Melffy card that exists right now. There's definitely some more support coming that's teased in the XYZ monsters, but as of now, Puppy's the best one. This one specials any level 2 beast monster from your deck, which is really strong because you can summon things like Calantosa. You can even do kind of like a Melffy loop by summoning Caddy, which is the next card, and it's just really good for disrupting, and then since it bounces to your hand, you're always having resources, which is really nice. So as mentioned, the next card is Caddy. This one actually searches any beast monster into the deck from the deck when your opponent summons or declares an attack on it. So that means you can actually search Alpha, the Master of Beasts. And this card is just really strong, especially, for example, if you need that search, you'll get Puppy first, most likely, since you're playing more copies of it. Puppy can bounce itself, and then Caddy can bounce itself once you summon Caddy off the Puppy, and then you get a nice search with Caddy once that resolves. So Caddy's nice. I wouldn't bump her up to 2 at the moment, but maybe if we get more Melffy cards that are actually strong, we might. The next card is 3 Rescue Cat. So Rescue Cat's really nice. It's one of the first rescue monsters, if not the first rescue monster that ever came out. And this one basically can summon any 2 level 3 or lower beast monsters from your deck. So this card can become an instant Nat Beast because you can summon a level 3, let's say, tuner and a level 2 beast if you choose to play it. Or, it can just make, your Tri-brigade links or your Melffy XYZ monsters. And it's really nice because you don't have to normal summon it to trigger it. So you can special summon it off of Ferjit, the Barren Blossom, which is the Tri-brigade link 2. And that can help extend your plays even further. The next card we play, it's kind of good. There's like a love-hate relationship with it, is Nimble Beaver. Nimble Beaver can become a 1-card Link 2 or a 1-card XYZ that's a rank 2. But he can get ashed easily, and he's only when he's normal summoned, which of course makes him a little bit weaker. So in some cases you might have to special summon first and then continue on with the normal summon. But it's just nice to have as a target right now. Most likely in the future, he'll get replaced with Kit, Tri-brigade Kit, which is coming out in Blazing Vortex. And I'll be doing an updated deck profile once Blazing Vortex comes out. The next card we play is only 2 Calantosa, the Mystical Beast of the Forest. So you don't want to draw. You always want to special summon him from the deck with Melffy Puppy or with Obedience School. And basically, every time it's special summoned by the effect of a beast monster, it can pop any card in the field. So Melffy Puppy triggers it. You can trigger it off of Ferjit, the Barren Blossoms effect to special summon it from your hand. Or you can use Joyous Melffy, which I'll show later, and in the combo video to also bring this out and pop cards, which is very nice because most of the time you're always doing that on your opponent's turn. So disruption is always a nice thing to have. And the next card we play is Hop-Ear Squadron. So Hop-Ear Squadron is kind of like a hand trap mixed with Formula Synchron. So basically, if you have, let's say, Spent Calantosa or any other monster on the board, Hop-Ear in hand, you can target 1 monster you control, and then assuming it resolves, you can special summon it, and then immediately it synchro summons into whatever you have in your extra deck using those 2 monsters, so the monster targeted and itself. So if you, most of the time, again, you're using Calantosa, so you'll make Herald of the Arclight with it. But I'll show you some options you can go into besides just the Herald. But most of the time it's going to be Herald because it's strong, it's a negate, and it's also a mini macro Cosmo. The last card of the generic beast you rerun is Alpha. Again, as I mentioned before, it's searchable with Caddy, so there's no reason not to play it. Most of your monsters are, at least main deck monsters, are really weak. So even if you have, let's say, like 3 or 4 monsters, there's a good chance you can still resolve summoning Alpha because, again, look, Kalantos is like 200, I think Puppy's at like 300 or 500 or something like that. So you're always going to usually be able to summon it if you're just sitting on some monsters. And it's just really strong because it's technically non-target removal, even though you have to target your own monsters. So it's just a nice card. And at worst case, it's a 3000 beat stick. Next, moving on to Tri-brigades. These are pretty standard ratios, but we played 3 Fractal. Fractal basically starts your entire Tri-brigade engine. You basically, if you have it in hand, pitch it. You set Nerval, which searches any Tri-brigade card, monster specifically, sorry. And in the future, when we get Kit in Blazing Vortex, Kit acts as like another Foolish Burial, so you can do Fractal, send Kit. Kit, when it's sent to the graveyard, sends any Tri-brigade card to the graveyard, so then you can send Nerval. Or they also have some spell cards with spell and trap cards with cool effects in the graveyard, so you can also alternatively send one of those to the graveyard as well with Kit once it comes out. The second one we play is Karas. Karas is nice at 2. You don't want 3 because if you see it too often, then it's going to just end up bricking. But 2 is nice because it has synergy with the rest of the deck, since it is a beast and an earth and a level 2. That really helps out with the rest of the deck. It's also an extender because you can special summon it by just discarding one beast, wing beast, or beast warrior in your hand, that you're not going to use. And it helps basically extend your plays. And of course, it's also a very good starter, especially if you've already resolved Fractal. And the last Tri-brigade we play is Nerval. As I mentioned, if it's sent to the graveyard in any way, you can add 1 Tri-brigade monster from your deck to your hand. Usually you're going to be searching Karas. And just so you know, all of the Tri-brigade main deck monsters have an effect. When they're on the field, you can banish X number of beast, wing beast, or beast warrior monsters from your graveyard to special summon a Link monster that's a beast, beast warrior, or wing beast with an equal Link rating to the number of monsters you banished. So that's pretty nice and really strong way to basically cheat out extra deck Link monsters, and there are a lot of actually really strong ones, which I'll show you. The last engine we run is the Dogmatika engine, as mentioned. So having the Dogmatika engine in this deck really brings everything together. The Dogmatika engine works really well with the Tri-brigade engine, and the Tri-brigade engine works really well with the beast and wing beast themes that we have going on here. So basically, it ends up becoming a very well-rounded package. The Tri-brigades really do bring everything forward and really allow for that synergy with the Dogmatikas, since they can just special summon a monster from the extra deck so easily. You usually just follow up and summon Ecclesia right next to it. Of course, we play the 1 Fleur-de-Lis next. This acts as a hand trap, but it also acts as an OTK enabler. Basically, if you have Ecclesia and Fleur-de-Lis on board, that's already by itself 5,000 damage if you can attack with 1 and activate Fleur-de-Lis's effect. So it's very nice, 5,000 damage by itself, and you can pair it up with with whatever extra deck monsters you summoned out earlier, or let's say you made Alpha first, that's already 8,000 damage. So this is just a really strong engine to pair with the other remaining cards. And again, if you watch the combo video that I'll be releasing very shortly, you'll see all the cool combos you can do with the 3 archetypes together. Now for hand traps, we just played 3 Ash Blossom. Not much to say about Ash Blossom. It's probably one of the best cards still to play in every deck. It just stops pretty much all strategies one way or another, and it's just really strong. And then last, we play the Gamma Driver package. So Gamma's probably also very necessary right now. Not only does it negate monster effects, but it also removes the monster from the field, which is the strongest aspect of it. Just Ghost Ogre doesn't do enough, but Ghost Ogre can potentially be a replacement if you don't want to play Gamma. There are love-hate relationships with Gamma because you don't like playing the 1 brick, but this deck has some benefits because if you make Farajit the Barren Blossom, if it's ever sent to the graveyard, you get to draw 1 and take 1 card from your hand and put it on the bottom of the deck. So if you do have Driver, and you don't want it, basically you could use the Farigite in the graveyard's effect to draw one card and then put Driver back in the deck. And, hopefully you're going to draw Gamma off that one card, so then you actually end up having a very, nice hand. And let's move on to the spells. All right. As for the spells, we actually don't play that many. We only play 8. But these are all power spells, and you'll see why. So the first card we play is Obedience Schooled. Basically, what this does, if you control no monsters, and this is not once per turn, you can special summon 3 level 2 or lower beast effect monsters with different names from your deck. Their effects are negated and they're destroyed during the end phase, but that doesn't matter because you have so much synergy with the beast monsters that you can just activate this and then go into basically all of your nice starting plays and different combos. And again, I'll be doing just Obedience School combos, different things you can do with just Obedience Schooled in my combo video. The only restriction is that it locks you into beast monsters, so you can't just summon this and then, or activate this and then, let's say, go into Herald of the Arclight, which would be pretty strong. But you can, for example, if you want to play Necheria Beast, this can be a 1-card Necheria Beast as well, which is really strong against certain matchups. Next, of course, to support the Dogmaticas, we play a 3 Nadir Servant. Servant sends monsters from your graveyard, from your extra deck to the graveyard to search your Dogmatica cards. And there's a lot of really strong monsters you can send to the graveyard that have strong effects when sent. For example, Cyframe Lord Omega, Farigite, as we mentioned before, has that draw effect. And then also Shiraig, the Ominous Omen, which is a Tri-brigade card, the Link 4. That card's also very strong, and there's a lot of combos you can do with him, and I'll show you actually in the combo video. And then the last thing we play is just 2 Fire Formation Tenki. It basically just makes 5 copies of your Fractal, and just having it on board is not bad, like having the Tenki on board, because you can boost Fractal, and you can also boost the Tri-brigade Link 3 with this card, but it doesn't come up too often, but you can always use it for fodder for things like Forbidden Droplets or the Ancient Warrior Link 2, which we play in the extra deck. For the traps, I'll just put them on top. We only play 2, and this is 40 cards. We played the 1 Imperial Order. Since we are playing 8 spells, it's not too many, and most of these you want to resolve earlier on in the game. If you don't resolve them earlier, you could always pop the Imperial Order with, let's say, Kalantosa, or even Shiraig, the Ominous Omen, which is the Tri-brigade Link 4 as mentioned. And you can just get rid of it if you feel like you really need to activate your spells. And then, of course, the last other trap we're playing is Dogmatica Punishment, which you can search off of Ecclesia to disrupt your opponent even more. Now let's move on to the extra deck. In this extra deck, I'm only going to show off 13 cards, and at the end of the video, I'll show you some options you can use for the other 2. The first one for Link 2, we play the Ancient Warriors Oath Double Dragon Lords. So again, I was just talking about this. This card sends any face-up card from your hand or on the field to the graveyard to bounce 1 card your opponent controls, and that's actually a quick effect. So this becomes a disruption, and it's really easy to bring out. Literally, if you just have Fractal in your hand, you can just make this. And worst case scenario, you can send the Karis that you probably use to special summon this to the graveyard to get a free bounce. And it also doesn't restrict you from bouncing itself, so you can always bounce itself if you need, or send itself if you need to bounce a card your opponent controls. The next one, of course, is Farigite the Barren Blossom. We only play 1, but you could play 2. Again, so this card on the field, it lets you special any level 4 or lower beast, wing beast, or beast warrior from your hand. So this can be a nice extender for your plays. Additionally, you can also, if it's sent to the graveyard as mentioned, you get the draw 1, and you can put 1 card from your hand back to the bottom of your deck, which of course can unbrick hands, but it also helps extend your combos if you have something that you can't use. Next is the Tri-brigade Link 3. It's called Rugal. This one's not as strong as the other ones. It's kind of just there for link climbing, but when it's on the field during your opponent's turn, you can special summon one level 4 or lower beast, wing beast, or beast warrior monster from your graveyard, and only during your opponent's turn. So it'd be stronger if it was just a beast, but it's actually a beast warrior. I know this is French, so you can't really see, but it's a beast warrior, which of course doesn't quite help out since you won't be able to use it to pop with Kalantosa. But it's just there for link climbing. When it's sent to the graveyard, it also doesn't have a strong effect. Basically, it'll reduce your opponent's monster's attacks by 300 for each different type of monster you control. So, again, doesn't really help out too much, but it is for link climbing. Next, we play 2 of Shiraig, the Tri-brigade, Ominous Omen. This is probably one of the strongest Tri-brigades that we have in the extra deck. So when it's summoned, or when a beast monster, or beast, wing beast, or beast warrior is summoned while it's on the field, only once per turn, you can non-target banish one card your opponent controls, which is very strong. You can out Dragoons with it. You can get rid of your Imperial Order if you want. You can bait out, other traps or whatever they have, and that just helps pretty much clear any problems you have. And again, you can do it also on your opponent's turn by summoning a monster, let's say with the Melffys, or you can potentially pair this with Rugal, and then you get a nice little combo. That's a little bit harder to make, but if you can pull it off, it's very strong. And then when it's sent to the graveyard, you can actually search a beast, wing beast, or beast warrior with a level less than or equal to the number of banished beast, beast warrior, and wing beast monsters in your banish pile. So usually with the main combos, that ends up being at least 2. So you can always search a Melffy card with it. Worst case scenario, later in the duel, you could search Alpha with it. But you have a lot of options. Rescue Cat comes up, you can search Rescue Cat with it. So the deck's very flexible, just because of this card. And next we play 1 Access Code Talker. Again, with the link climbing you can do. Access Code is really strong. And there are a few different attributes. So Shiraig, for example, is a dark. Rugal is an earth. And then the Double Dragon Lords is a wind. So you can get up to 3 links to banish with Access Code Talker, depending on how you made him. Most of the time you might only get 2 though, because you'll have an earth and then maybe a dark in your graveyard. But worst case, you can always banish the Access Code if you really need to pop something. But you can make it with Shiraig in some instances, and that's really strong because then of course you have 6,300 attack Access Code. So it's just nice to have Access Code as an option since you're link climbing. Next we play 1 Melffy of the Forest. This one just searches Melffy cards basically by detaching one, and you can use any level 2 monsters, so it works really nicely with the deck. And just for example, just Nimble Beaver makes it. And then while it's on the field, if you use a Melffy monster's effect to bounce itself to the hand, Melffy of the Forest will trigger to negate one monster your opponent controls, and also that monster can attack. So not only can you special with Melffy Puppy or search with Melffy Caddy, but you also get a negate while it's on the board, which is pretty strong. And next is the best Melffy card in the deck, which is Joyous Melffy. So this one's really nice. This one you can actually use more than 2 monsters, so you can use 2 or more level 2 monsters. They actually do need to be beasts though for this one, so it's not overly generic. But what you can do while it's on the field is it can be a direct attack by detaching 1. So you can pair it with Zeus to attack directly, and then make Zeus with it, and then you get at least 1 Zeus effect if you've only just used the bare minimum material to make Joyous Melffy. And the other effect it has, which is actually why it's the strongest boss monster more or less in your extra deck, is because you can target any Beast XYZ or rank 2 XYZ monster on your field, and basically if it resolves, let's say you're targeting Joyous Melffy itself, it'll shuffle itself back into the deck, and then based on the number of materials it had when you targeted it, you'll be able to special summon that many material from your graveyard that are level 2 or lower beasts. And that's really strong because since it is a Beast Warrior, that will trigger Kalantosa. And for example, with Obedience Schooled, since it negates their monster effects, that would actually allow you to, bring back out those monsters, and they'll actually still have their effects if you just, went Obedience Schooled and made Joyous Melffy. So that's really strong. And as mentioned, we play a Divine Arsenal a Zeus. And this card is really strong because it's a non-once per chain, blow up the entire board pretty much. It's super easy to make with just Joyous Melffy. And also, for some reason, a card gets destroyed on your field, you can, attach something else to a Zeus, which is always nice. Next we play Herald of Arclight. As mentioned before, you can use Hop Your Squadron to make your Herald of Arclight very easily. And Herald of Arclight is just nice because, again, it's a mini Macrocosmo for the main deck and the hand. And it also is just a negate anything, which is nice. Next we play Omega. Omega's here. You can make it with Gamma and Driver, but most of the time you can send it with either Dogmatika Punishment or Nadir Servant to recycle materials, or even remove any monsters in your opponent's graveyard, put it back into their deck. So certain decks that actually really hurts, but most of the time it ends up allowing you to recycle any of your resources. Then for fusions, we play one Elder Entity Entis, which of course is strong with Nadir Servant and Dogmatika Punishment, allowing you to pop one monster or one card on the field when it's sent to the graveyard. And then last but not least is, of course, Titaniclad, the Ash Dragon, which searches your Dogmatika monsters or special summons them at the end phase if it's sent to the graveyard. So if you haven't quite gotten to your Dogmatika cards, or you have enough resources where you want to search Ecclesia, Punishment, and Fleur de Lis for your opponent's turn, you can always send this with Nadir Servant to have access to all those cards. Now I'll move on and start talking about, again, there's 13 cards, so I'll talk about some options you can use in your extra deck to round it out and have different options for your other two spots. The first one that I'm thinking and toying around with is a Desert Locust. So what Desert Locust does is, if it's summoned, the turn player has to discard one card. So this is pretty strong because with Hop Your Squadron, you can make this on your opponent's turn, which of course means that your opponent actually has to discard one card. They do get to choose the card, so that makes it a little bit not as strong, but it is still meaning that your opponent has to lose one of their resources that they have to play with. Basically, you could only make this if you have Ecclesia on board and Hop Your Squadron in hand. So it does definitely come up sometimes, and just having the Rip 1 is pretty nice, because then if you have another level 2 monster on field, this is also a Formula Synchron effect. So you can actually quick summon during your opponent's turn and make Omega with this afterwards, and that could actually result in another hand rip, or you can actually use Omega to replenish your graveyard with your banished cards if it survives your opponent's turn. So that's the Desert Locust option. The other option you can play for XYZs is, of course, Joyous Melffy, a second Joyous Melffy. I've never had it come up where you needed a second one, but some people might have it come up. I know Pac was playing 2 when he was playing this deck, but I actually never felt the second one needed to come up. The next one, this is also one of the ones I'm highly considering, is Salamangreat Almirage. So Almirage you basically use if the only play you had was Nimble Beaver and it gets ashed. You can just link off the Nimble Beaver into Almirage, and then your Ecclesia in hand or Nadir Servant becomes live. And this actually came up once in a tournament, at the very last round, and I actually needed to make a stronger board. I was still able to win, but having this would have been much stronger, so that's one option. Next are two cards that get paired together, Union Carrier and Simorgh Bird of Sovereignty. So I'll talk about the Simorgh first. So theoretically, you can just use the Simorgh Bird of Sovereignty by itself, but basically you can summon this using the Tri-brigade cards, and then during the end phase, you can special summon any winged beast monster from your deck with a level less than the number of open or unoccupied spell and trap zones on the field. That includes your opponent. So a lot of the time you can make a 7, which means you can summon Apex Avian, Mist Valley Apex Avian, which is a bounce to negate card, which of course is really strong, so that gives you a free negate. Alternatively, you can summon out the Wind Barrier statue, because that's actually a winged beast, and just lock your opponent out of special summoning anything that's not a wind, which is very strong in this format. The only downside to that is that it's hard to get rid of it then once it's on board, because you're locked into special summoning with winds only. So it makes it a little tricky to get rid of it unless you play an additional wind monster that can just be linked into. One example is Heartbeat Conductor. It just requires 2 winds, so theoretically you can link off the Simorgh Bird of Sovereignty and the Wind Barrier statue for it. And it's kind of good too because you can play Harpy's Feather Storm or Storm Duster. It's basically the trap that you can play, and it basically also stops your opponent from activating card effects. So that's also another option you can play. I don't have one, but that's an option you can do. And as for the Union Carrier, if you're able to make Bird of Sovereignty and Union Carrier in the same turn, you can actually equip the Bird of Sovereignty using Union Carrier's effect with Mist Valley Thunderbird. And Mist Valley Thunderbird, you can use the Mist Valley Thunderbird in the equip zone to actually bounce with the Avian that you'll summon at the end phase with the Bird of Sovereignty. And whenever the Thunderbird's added to your hand, it can special summon itself. So that means you can basically, that's the infinite negate combo that you might have been hearing about. Basically, every time you negate something, you'll bounce the Thunderbird, and the Thunderbird will come back. Unfortunately, Mist Valley had an errata, or Mist Valley Apex Avian had an errata, so it's only once per chain. But even if your opponent can, chain 2 things per turn, or per effect, basically, against very simple decks, you can completely lock them out of playing anything, which is, of course, really strong. For another 2 synchro options, I actually don't have them, but you can play Naturia Beast, of course, which I mentioned a couple times in the deck profile, and then the other one's called Vulcan the Divine, I think. So it's a level 6, so you can play instead of the Desert Locust. It's a level 6 synchro, and it has a similar effect to the Double Dragon Lords, the Ancient Warriors link. You can target one card you control and one card your opponent controls when it's summoned, and bounce those 2 cards. So this is also kind of good. It's a quick disruption you can do on your opponent's turn, which of course is very strong, but I think that the Desert Locust might be a little bit stronger because it can potentially result in your opponent losing 2 of their resources. And then the last thing, it's very simple, but you can just play Cyframe Lambda, which of course helps make your Cyframe Gammas alive when you aren't bricking, or if you drew it but you still want to make your board. And Lambda is also nice because the Tri-brigades restrict you into only using Beast, Wing Beast, or Beast Warrior monsters as link material, but it doesn't restrict you into summoning Wing Beast, Beast Warrior, or Beast link monsters. So it's just a nice card to potentially have access to, and it's relatively generic. So yep. If you guys have any questions, feel free to leave them down in the comments. And again, look forward to my combo video, because this deck's really cool, and the combos you can do with them are, surprising. So definitely take a look. And if you like this video, make sure to subscribe, and we'll see you soon.